I'm Nicole Johnson with Boyd Cycling, and I'm an owner in the company, but I go by my title of Sales Queen.
And my name is Boyd Johnson, also the owner. My business card says Headhunt.
And these are notes on innovation. So we're a husband and wife team. Our business is going on 10 years old this year. And a lot of people ask me when I say that, they say, how is it working with your husband? It's got to be really tough. And my response is, we actually really like each other. And, I think our biggest thing is that we respect each other a lot, and we don't confuse our roles with being married with being business partners. So I'm from New Britain, Connecticut originally.
And I grew up in Buffalo, New York area. So we had both moved down south, nicer weather. We're both into cycling and just going to various bike races. We met back in 2003 at a bike race. I was actually snowbirding at the time, so I was living down south in the wintertime, and then I would go back up to Buffalo in the summertime to race my bike up there. And she was working full time. And
in the high-tech industry. And I started racing bikes for stress relief because that was a tough industry to be in at the time. Yeah. I was a recruiter, so basically, at the time there was a lot of need for computer software, coders, Java was big, so I did that, and then I went to work for a startup company that did all the Microsoft certification, so I was the third employee hired for that organization. So it was really exciting. It's where I learned that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I worked about 80 hours a week at 24 years old, and so I started racing bikes to have a little balance in my life, which probably not what I would recommend to most for the balance.
Yeah, not so much in the past few years. Racing's taken a backseat as the business has gotten bigger and bigger. We both race competitively on the scene, traveling around the country, competing in races. I was racing full time. I was on a pro contract for 2008 and 2009, and right when that pro contract was getting done, I'd always been into bike wheels, so I took our sponsored wheels and I would rebuild them, different spokes, different lacing patterns. I saw what made stuff good, what could be improved, and so at the end of my racing career in 2009, I started contacting various manufacturers, getting samples in, and eventually told Nicole that I wanted to launch the company.
Yeah, and I was actually working in the cycling industry. I was working for Hincapie Sportswear, and they had hired me to run their retail channel. And so there I figured out, how the industry worked and, the way that buyers worked and just the whole, dealer network. And so once Boyd launched the company, I think 2 months went by, and he came to me and said, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. So I struggled with the fact of giving up a really good job that I had in an industry that I loved to go full time with Boyd. So I actually gave a 2-month notice, and after 30 days, Rich Hincapie was like, Nicole, you got to go do that business with Boyd. He's like, that's what I did. I get it. Just go have fun. And so January 2010 is when we were working the business both full time. And I always say failure was not an option. So we started out of our house online. We were one of the first companies in the industry that was selling direct to consumer on the internet. We'd call bike shops where they'd say, who's Boyd? So there was really, no place for us to, develop the brand in that channel right away. And so we just focused on the consumer and grew the company that way initially.
We had just started the company, and so nobody really knew who we were. And this one guy out of California was like, you're taking a chance, I like what you're doing. And he ended up buying, it was 2 bike frames and 3 sets of wheels from us. And it was, I think it was like a $5,000 sale, and it was like, this is amazing, like, this is all we have to do every month. And I remember telling Nicole, I'm like, all we have to do is sell 3 wheel sets every month, and we'll be okay.
We can pay our mortgage and buy more wheels, which wasn't true. Yeah. We needed more than that.
Yeah, I had never been in business for myself, and so it was a lot of learning on the fly, how to do this, how to run a business. and then also how to make a good product while doing it. You know, we were selling a couple wheel sets per week. You know, not today we've got to sell, you know, 4 or 5 wheel sets per day at least. So we actually had more free time. I was still racing full time in 2010. It was actually probably my best season that I ever had. You know, it was just that steady growth, and so, you know, if we sold 10, we would buy 20. We sold 20, we'd buy 40, and we just kept on refunding the business. And it was in 2010 that we started working with the Michelin Development Program, and you know, we went through a round of funding with them, and that really got us the inventory we needed to get to the next level.
Yeah, we doubled in size after that funding that we received. And we used to make bikes, handlebars, water bottle cages, and bicycle wheels. So we figured out very quickly that we needed to focus because we didn't have the cash flow that, you know, some companies do, because we bootstrapped it from the beginning.
And in the beginning, we were using what they call an open mold rim. So it's a rim that, you know, it was a good quality, we tested it, but it was available to other companies. And so we would always build them here in Greenville, and it was really price driven. So in 2010, I think the average good wheel set was anywhere from $2,400 to $3,000, and we were coming in at $1,000. And so because we were selling direct to consumer, you know, our cost just went to the consumer and then with a markup on it. And then, you know, as we continued to innovate, we came out with our own molds, the quality got better and better, and that's where our pricing got higher with that. We started going through a lot more dealers, and that's what really started driving the business.
As soon as we received the funding, we were starting to really analyze the business and figure out what we liked and what we wanted to focus on. And we decided that we were just going to focus on wheels, which was the best decision we could have made because we were spread pretty thin, having all these different products. There's a lot of companies in the industry, though, that have lots of different options. But we decided we're going to be a wheel company, and that's really what put us on the map. People started to really pay attention. And then with that renewed focus and funding, we were able to innovate, and we were able to design our own shapes, come up with our own tooling. Boyd did an amazing job in figuring out the relationships in the factories that would pay attention to us, because as a smaller company, trying to get, you know, space on a line in Asia, in Taiwan, is a big deal. So he was able to figure out who to work with and make that happen.
What was the process to achieve that funding? Can you talk a little bit about that?
We actually didn't know it existed, and a good friend of ours that Boyd raced with saw it in the paper. He was like, "You guys should check this out." But literally, we were a year old, so no bank would talk to us, and we didn't have 2 years of tax returns yet. You know, we always generated a profit, so we were a healthy business, but there's no way anyone was going to trust us to give us, you know, the amount of money that the Michelin program could. So we actually called them, and they told us how the program worked, and we had to submit a business plan, which we kind of had one. And then we had to pitch in front of their board, which was really stressful because we had never done something like that. So basically we made it, you know, to the round where we had to present to all the people on the board, and, you know, they asked us lots of questions about our supply chain and where we were going with the company and our current revenue numbers. And so I think 2 weeks went by, and then we received an email saying, "Congratulations, you've been approved." And it was like someone gave us $1 million. I mean, we had just never been through a process like that. And they actually gave us 50 grand, and it was a loan that had to be paid back within 5 years. And I just remember when we got the documents and we met with them to sign the paperwork, I was so nervous. Just, it was like buying a house.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh my gosh, someone's gonna lend us 50 grand. We better turn this around. And we were one of the companies that they, you know, really put a lot of attention to. They loved what we were doing, and we paid the loan back within the time that they asked. And so they came to us and said, "We want to work with you again." So that was a really positive experience, and we doubled the company in size 2 years in a row after that. when we started the company, we started in our house because it didn't make any sense to put capital towards a space when we were doing everything online. So within a year and a half, we had product all over our house. We couldn't sit down in the living room to watch TV. You know, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we probably should do something different. So we rented a warehouse that was walking distance from our home, and it had no heat and no AC. And we actually had a wheel builder who is a dear friend of mine, who she would build the wheels at her house. So we would drop them off in the morning, and then we would pick them up, 1 to 2 days later after she hand built them. And so she was willing to come to a location because we were starting to get busy where doing all this driving around wasn't quite efficient. So yeah, we moved into that place, and then within 6 months, we were maxed out. Boyd and I were doing everything with the cleaning the wheels, speccing the wheels, shipping them, working with the customers, doing the accounting, the marketing. And then she was doing a lot as well. So we hired another wheel builder. And so then we started to get to the point where we thought, oh my gosh, we are responsible for other people. And you can only think about it for a second, or it'll completely, put you in a dark place. So we've just forged ahead. Like I said earlier, once we made the decision to do this, we decided this is the American dream. Like, we have the ability to drive our own destiny and take people along with us who are willing to, go on this journey. So then within another year, we found another place that had heat and air, and it was on the rabbit trail. And the gentleman that we rented from told us, he said, I'll outfit the place the way that you need it. And so we moved in there, and that tripled our rent. Went up double or triple?
Triple.
By the time we left, it was triple from the other place.
We went from the original building with no heat, no AC was $400 a month.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yep. So then we had a big rent, and we had 3 employees plus Boyd and I just had a baby. We decided to throw a kid in the mix with all this. So, we just kept going, and the brand just kept growing. We kept connecting with teams and, showing that the product was high quality. And because we were hand building it, that really put us in a place where people saw us as a custom outfit. So we're designing our own shapes, our own hubs, and then we were hand building. So it just is a craft that people started to really respect.
So talk a little bit about that. How did you develop those wheels?
When we decided we wanted to focus on wheels, we said, all right, if we're gonna do this, we want to do it the best. We want to have really good products. Customer service was always a priority, and so I started drawing up different rim shapes. Back then in 2010, everything was a really narrow rim designed for 21 millimeter tires. And we could see that the trend was going to be towards larger and larger tires, wider rims to get a better tire shape. And so we invested quite a bit in tooling to come out with fairly wide rims at that point. And once we did that, it put us on a whole other level, because after we started, there was a lot of other companies that came in, were doing the same thing that we were doing, buying rims. Sometimes, our competitors would have the same rim as us. And so this was something that really differentiated us from the competition. The first revision of shapes that we did, it was, I did an interview with a cycling company, and I really said, we got lucky. We drew up something that, I kind of knew was going to be fast, but we didn't really know. And so we took it to the wind tunnel, which is how you test how aerodynamic something is, and it did really well. The next batch, I said, being lucky is good, but having a plan is better. And so I hired a good friend of mine. He's basically a rocket scientist. He's got his PhD in aerodynamics from Purdue University. And so he came down, and we started drawing up rim shapes, and he did computer fluid dynamic analysis on it. And then we drew up 30, 35 different rim shapes, ran analysis. When we found the best ones, we actually made physical prototypes out of solid aluminum, brought that to the wind tunnel, and then tested against all the other competitors. And so once we realized that we had the fastest rim out there, that's when we opened up the tooling for our next model. And those are still the models that we have going nowadays, and it's still one of the fastest rims in the world. Right now where cycling is, there are still people concerned with the aerodynamics of everything. Gravel cycling is on a big kick right now. People like to take their bikes and ride it on dirt roads, mountain biking, stuff that's not putting you in traffic. And so we've really been on the forefront of that, coming out with gravel models years before gravel cycling was a thing. It's something where I'm always trying to think of ideas. I go for a bike ride and it just, it inspires me to think about what do I want on my bike. And usually, that's something that translates into a good product.
In the early days, do you have any stories of failures?
We had a.
You learn through failure.
Yeah, failure is definitely a better teacher than success. We had a hub design that we came out with. We started working on it in about 2013, and it was going to be a made in the U.S. hub, and it was something that we worked on for a couple years. It had a bunch of really unique features to it. It was a system where the rear hub actually had 2 axles in it. Some really cool technology in there. And then we kind of ignored a couple of red flags in the production of it, some tolerances that were being missed, and we released it and then immediately had to do a recall on it and got back. Fortunately, we didn't sell thousands of them, but we had to get back about 200 hub sets. So that was definitely a big lesson on, if you see those red flags happening, don't ignore them just because you're passionate about something.
Were you able to resolve it?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that actually, got us through pretty good is our dedication to customer service. We took care of every single person. We covered the shipping back to us. We rebuilt it with new hubs. We shipped it back to the consumer. In most cases, they were only out without their wheel set for 3 to 4 days. And so it cost us a lot of money, but we have happy customers because of it.
And we were able to take, the good pieces of the design from that and innovate our newest hub called the 85, which is named after a famous brewery here in Greenville. And so that's where we say, like some of these challenges that happened, we were able to pick ourselves up and have something, apply it to new innovation.
When we look at wheel design, there's 3 main components of a bicycle wheel. The hub is at the center, and that's the part that spins with the bearings in there. The spokes connect the hub to the rim, and then the rim is what the tire attaches to, and it's also what sees the most airflow. So the aerodynamic aspect of that is extremely important. So when we're designing stuff like looking at rim shapes, it's a lot of aerodynamic properties, but then also you've got to make it structurally sound. You don't want to have a rim that falls apart when you hit your first bump. A lot of the wheels that we sell are made out of carbon fiber, and so carbon fiber is actually almost like a yarn material, and it gets mixed with it gets mixed with a resin to make a pre-preg, and so that will get cut up into pieces, laid into a shape, and then cured at high heat and pressure to form the rim shape. And so carbon fiber is a great material because it's a lot lighter than aluminum, but also a lot stronger. We have our alloy rims and hubs are both made in Taiwan. Carbon rims are made in China. We found a great factory that works with that, and we work together with a factory on coming up with rim designs and really looking into, how is this going to make the best possible wheel. Then when everything is done, it comes here to Greenville, South Carolina, and that's where we do the assembly, warehousing, and shipping.
A hand-built wheel is what you want. A machine, a lot of companies will build the wheels with machines, and what happens with the machine is they zip the wheel up much faster than you do if you were hand building it, which puts undue stress on the wheel. And so that's where, over time, spokes can break prematurely, whereas when we're building by hand, and we have lots of people that have our wheels for many, many years now and have never had to true the wheel, which is a big deal because, with cycling, you can hit potholes and sidewalks and different things, so. So after we had been in business for about 5 years, I actually connected a lot with the trade administration. And so they came in and they said, have you guys ever thought about exporting your product? And we said, well, we have a little bit, but not as a strategy. And so they actually put together a report of the top 25 countries that would really receive our product well and be very interested. So from that point on, we started going to some shows, one specifically in Germany company called Eurobike. And so they actually helped us with some marketing dollars to get us to the show. So, we've had things like that, things with the state, just resources that have been available to us. It's taken me a lot of time to figure out, who these people are and the approach. But through that program, they connected me with a bank that actually did a lot with SBA funding, which I didn't really have a lot of knowledge about. And so through that relationship, we were able to actually get some working capital. And they also said, have you thought about buying a building? And we said no. But we had outgrown the space that we were in 3 times. Like, the landlord kept giving us extra space within the building. So we were really inefficient. We had our fully built wheels the farthest away from the door for shipping purposes. So we realized, okay, we've got to do something different. So we ended up finding a building with more space than we need, but the goal was, space to grow. And that really launched us again, being able to innovate our wheels again and work with a very high-end quality manufacturing facility that we work with now and have worked with for the last 5 years. We've really received a lot of support from organizations in the state of South Carolina. One in particular is called Next, and they're an innovation center based here in Greenville, and their whole goal is to work with the up-and-coming entrepreneurs who typically have IP, who maybe have really good knowledge about their product, but not necessarily all the knowledge that they need to have a successful business. So we've worked very closely with them, and they've connected us with different people. One in particular was SC Launch and SCRA, which is another amazing group that's focused on economic development, and they do rounds of funding. That's typically, they do some grants, but we were able to work with them through a loan program, and again, offering working capital so we could grow the brand to a point where we're making a huge impact on South Carolina, hopefully someday. So working with groups like that have just advanced us, connected us with resources. When we worked with Michelin Development Program, they said to us, if you guys ever need accounting assistance, or if you need an attorney, you guys are dealing with IP. And so they actually connected us with Michelin employees who had the expertise in these areas. So these are things that, small businesses struggle with having the funding to exercise. And I do believe that, having access to resources like that has advanced us much faster than if we were to do it on our own. Boyd and I joke, we say, we realized early on in this venture that we don't know everything, and we're willing to work with people who have the expertise in areas that we don't know everything about. So
we really like to know, what we don't know, and it's very important to know as a business owner when you don't know something and not be afraid to ask for help. One of the programs from Next that we've been really fortunate to take part of is their mentoring program. And we meet pretty much monthly with a group of mentors who are established business leaders in the Greenville area. And they really have us working on the business instead of in the business. And so, when you're a small company and you've got to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of things, you tend to kind of get lost working in your business to make it happen every day. And so they're trying to get that big picture view of, what are you going to do to make your business profitable and sustainable, not just what are you going to do to make this day sustainable.
A lofty goal is we hope to be, one of the best wheel companies in the world. I mean, we've made strides. We had a friend recently tell us you should, have the end in mind when you start a business, which, I don't think most people think like that. A lot of times people start businesses because they're passionate about something, and that's truly our story, is that, we were passionate about cycling, and we still are to this day, probably will be our entire life. We attract, our employees that we have all rise. pride. There's a lifestyle that we've formed with this business. We've had conversations with, what do we see in 5 years? And, the industry, and I think this is true of all industries, there's a lot happening in the world, so it's hard to plan that far ahead. But we truly, want to be the company that people, we say we're the people's choice. So in continuing to be the people's choice, our main goal is that we offer unbelievable service. People come to us because we care, and Boyd and I still answer the phone. We have several employees who can answer the phone, but we answer the phone because we want to be close to the heartbeat of our customer and the industry. One of our goals that we've talked about is, someday, manufacturing rims for other companies. Boyd is really good, like we said earlier, at spotting the future and the innovation, and so there's some value to that. So, that's an area that we may develop over time.
Mm-hmm. One of the scariest things is just, it's not just our lives that hang in our hands. I mean, we've got employees, and fortunately, you see the good with the bad. So we've had multiple employees who have been able to buy their first homes after working with us for a while. We've seen employees start families, and we're getting to see their kids grow up. And as scary as it can be to realize that they're relying on you, you also get to see the benefits of it. I love coming to work every day. It's still something where every day that I get to come here to the office, and knowing that something that we work really hard on is going to make somebody smile whenever they get on their bike, there's, it's super rewarding.
Yeah, and I actually, in my past life, I worked in very competitive industries like high tech and the media, and I learned early on that I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I wanted to drive my own train. I always felt like I wanted to make an impact on people's lives, and sometimes, when you're in that corporate bubble, you're responsible for one piece of the pie, but with this, we're able on a daily basis to make decisions that can affect the brand, that can affect the future. And, every employee that we have is in a position where they're affecting our customers. And I think that's what, makes it all worth it to me, is giving people the opportunity to have a good lifestyle.
To stay on top of the current trends, fortunately for us, we're still living in cycling. We're very passionate about it. And, following and being in this world, and sort of looking ahead to everything, you start to see what's going to happen. And then if you can really start to think about, okay, how would I design a wheel for this thing? Well, it's not a thing yet, but it will be a thing. So how do you design a wheel for that? And, we're a small company. We can adapt very quickly. We don't have to go through huge layers of a corporation. And that's where, some of the wheel models we come out with a year to year and a half before the bigger companies can catch up. For the big companies, they have to see well, it looks like, I'll use gravel as a good example. It looks like gravel's going to become a trend, but we don't know if it's going to be a trend for 2 years, and do we risk that? Whereas me as a small company is like, yeah, gravel's going to be a thing. We're coming out with this gravel rim, and I literally sketched it on a napkin coming back from a trade show in Las Vegas.
One of the things I'd like to say that helps me with creativity and just thinking about the direction of the brand is always going with my heart to a certain degree. So we had a situation a couple years ago where one of our top dealers, bike shops that buys wheels from us, came to us and they said, hey, we work with these two brothers. They're called the Peace Brothers, and one of the brothers is a triathlete. He does Ironman, and he has a brother that has special needs with cerebral palsy. And so they came to us and they said, these guys want to do the Ironman together, and we can't find anybody who will make wheels for their special bike that they need. And we thought of you guys, and I get chills still talking about this story. So we actually hand-built some special wheels for them, and they qualified to go to Kona this year on their bike with our wheels. And they were on the Today Show, and it's just this passion that continues to drive us. And when you go with your heart, it's like Boyd said, we're able to make decisions quickly to service the things that we love. Now that our business is 10 years old, starting out again, the advice that I would give someone is just, take a deep breath every day. Don't try to control every aspect of the business. Just appreciate where you are in the moment, because it's all gonna be okay.
There's a lot that I wish I would have known early on, especially with, never running a business before. And so there's some stuff that, I wish I would have taken the time as far as, like accounting and forecasting and supply chain, and learning that aspect of it would definitely be beneficial.
The tools that, I think in today's world that are, just really crucial are obviously, your cell phone, your iPad, your, the basic tools with technology. But I find, for myself, it's just, trying to be pretty organized. In running a business, you get pulled in a lot of different directions. And so time is really the main resource that you have. And so if you don't have any control of your time, you'll get to the end of the day not accomplishing nearly what you need to do. And for me, the main purpose or the main job that I have every day is to sell wheels, is to drive revenue, and so I don't have any room for error. So I would say time is key.
I'm involved a lot with the wheel building, and so obviously the tools to build the wheels are the stuff that we need. There's spoke wrenches and tension meters to actually measure how much deflection is in each spoke. And we measure that down to the 100th of a millimeter. And so those tools are indispensable. As far as running the business, my calendar, putting everything on the calendar, it's almost to the point where I'm scheduling when do I need to drink water. So we use Google for a lot of stuff. They've been pretty good about having the business tools. Everything that's on your phone is also on all of your computers, no matter where you are. And so Google's been great for email, calendar, and turning on the lights in our living room.
Innovation to me means, providing tools to improve the certain situation. I think there's some confusion these days with using innovation for marketing only, because for us with cycling, it's an expensive sport, and so we've always been really conscious of that for our end consumer and our customers. And so when we innovate, it's for a specific reason. It's to improve the ride for people. It's to make things easier on our customer.
Yeah, and I look at it, it's almost like having the crystal ball of that innovation is, being able to recognize what is coming, what's next, and then how do you make it for what's coming next. When Nicole and I started dating in 2004, we both lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was a good city for, working if you worked for a company. The bike riding there was decent, but it was also getting very busy. And so we were in situations where we would have to ride through heavy traffic on our bikes for at least an hour to get to the good riding. And so I had been to Greenville many times to ride. Nicole had only done some races here around the old Donaldson Center Industrial Airport. So that's the only thing she had ever seen of Greenville. And so I eventually came to her one day and I said, hey, what do you think about moving to Greenville? She goes, well, I think it's kind of a dump.
It's like, I don't think this is gonna work out.
Yeah. And so I told her, I said, no, I need to come show you the real Greenville. And so we came here to go for a bike ride, parked at Furman, went up into the mountains. We ended up doing like an 85-mile bike ride through the mountains, and then had dinner afterwards downtown. And she's like, all right, we can move to this town. And it has become our home here. We have a ton of good friends. We love the riding here. They really support businesses, and I really can't see ourselves being in any other town except for Greenville. With our family life, we do it a little bit differently than a lot of other people, even a lot of the other family people in the industry, because it's her and I at all the shows. So everybody in the industry knows our daughter. We bring her to all the trade shows. She was in San Diego last week at a trade show, and she's been to 4 Euro bikes, 5 Inter bikes. We've brought her to China, Taiwan, And so everybody in the industry has kind of seen her grow up, and they know us as we are the family company because our family is always coming to these shows together. And for me, you know, the business is great, family's more important, and the fact that I can bring my family on the road with me to these trade shows and we get to hang out, that's amazing.
Her name is Olive, and she's 6 years old now. So, you know, when the business really started to take off is when I had her. And so, you know, I literally took 1 week off to figure out how to nurse her, and then I pretty much strapped her to my chest and off we went. And so, you know, all of our family lives up north, and so we just didn't really have a choice. So we didn't think about it. We just took her with us. And so, you know, we've seen her really just evolve as a little person. I mean, we take her to trade shows, to restaurants. She's flown more than I've flown in all of my years of being alive. And so what we've noticed is there's a level of maturity to her at 6 years old that, you know, we couldn't have taught her. I mean, she knows how to act. She knows, you know, what the shows are about. We have one show, we have a video where she has her gymnastics leotard on with a tutu skirt, and she's waving my card going, "Who wants Boyd wheels?" And so we didn't teach her that. You know, it was just something where she sees mommy and daddy working really hard, and she tells people at school, she's like, "My daddy makes really fast wheels." And, you know, so it's been really cool, and we feel so grateful that we've been able to take her along with us and for her to see the world literally through the eyes of a child. We already know she's going to be our boss someday.
Yeah, it's you know, we kind of want to show her you know, what it takes to run a business and the hard work of it. And you know, honestly, if she wants to work for somebody else, that's going to be fine. She's going to figure out her own path, and we just want to give her the tools to help her succeed.
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Boyd.
And these are Notes on Innovation.